All right, we're looking at our final review, number 8 and 9. They want you to solve the quadratic equation by completing a square. Here's the thing. I am not a huge fan of completing the square. If you get it, you know how to do it, awesome. If not, what I would do instead is use the quadratic formula. Remember that formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That will work for every single equation. So if you're like, I don't know how to complete the square, do that instead. I believe, I know that I'll go over this like formula in the video for number 11 and I think 12. So check out that video to learn how to use the quadratic formula. But right now I'm going to talk about completing the square. There are only 2 problems on the test where you absolutely have to complete the square. So for the next 2, if you don't want to, go ahead and use this instead. All right, if I'm completing the square, I need to have x squared and x on the same side and my number that's all by itself on the other side. So this one's already set up for me. I'm going to start by bringing down my 7 and we're going to cut it in half. So I'm going to do 7 divided by 2. That gives me 3.5. And then I'm going to square it, which is, if I type it into my calculator, 12.25. Then I'm going to add this number, 12.25, to this side and to that side. When I do that, I get negative 3x squared plus 7x plus 12.25 equals negative 5 plus 12.25. So the reason we want to factor or complete the square is because then I can rewrite this left side as x plus whatever our number here was, whatever we got when we cut it in half, squared, and it equals whatever this is on the other side. So 12.25 minus 5 gives me 7.25. And then we can use our previous thing where we're solving by square roots to solve for x. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of this squared. So I'm going to start by square rooting both sides. When I do that, I'll have x plus 3.5 equals plus and minus the square root of 7.25, which is 2.69. And then we need to move our 3.5. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I have some more room. So then we're going to go ahead and subtract 3.5 from both sides. When I do that, I have x equals negative 3.5 plus or minus 2.69. I'm going to break this up into 2 parts. My first one is going to be x equals negative 3.5 plus 2.96. If I add those, negative 3.5 plus 2.96, I get negative 5.54. And then my second part, we're going to subtract. So we're going to do x equals negative 3 minus, negative 3.5 minus 2.96. And when I do that, I get negative 6.46. as my final answer. Again, if you're like, hey, I don't know how to complete the square and it's really confusing to me, try to do it this way. My next one, we're going to do the same thing. Again, remember my first step is to move my 14 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides. When I do that, I get x squared. Let's write that so we can actually read it. X squared plus 10x equals negative 14. Again, I'm going to bring down my number in front of x. So we're going to bring down the 10. We'll divide it by 2, which gives me 5. And then we'll square it, which gives me 25. We want to take 25 and add it to both sides of my equation. So we have x squared plus 10x plus 25 equals negative 14 plus 25. Remember, I can rewrite the left side. If I do it correctly, we have x plus whatever number we cut in half. So x plus 5 squared equals, and if I do negative 14 plus 25, I get 11. So this thing equals 11. Again, we are going to solve the same way. We're going to start by taking our square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So we'd have x plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 11. We can't take the square root of 11, so I'm just going to leave it underneath. And then I need to move that 5 to the other side. So we're going to do minus 5, minus 5. I'm going to take it up here. When I do that, we get x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 11. So technically my two answers are x equals negative 5 plus the square root of 11, and x equals negative 5 minus the square root of 11. And those are your two solutions for